CD Projekt Red just had their earnings conference call, and so we have some pretty good news for not only the future of CDPR, but for the Cyberpunk and Witcher franchises as well. First, the CFO for CDPR, Piotr Nielubowicz, gave a quick recap of everything that's happened over at CD Projekt Red this last year, from the launch of Cyberpunk Edgerunners to the release of the next-gen Witcher 3. And in this quick recap, Piotr mentions that CDPR are incredibly grateful to the Cyberpunk community for the support that has been shown for the game, and reaffirmed that over 20 million people had played Cyberpunk 2077 before the end of last year. He also gave a small recap of the games that are currently in development across CD Projekt Red. And according to Piotr, the whole of CDPR is working hard to become a more efficient company, and he also mentioned that the developers across CDPR are expressing excitement of working with Unreal Engine 5. Now, to no one's surprise, 2022 was a big year for CDPR, and it was their second best earning year in the company's history, which we know is mainly due to the rise in popularity for Cyberpunk, as well as the release of the next-gen Witcher 3. And this leads into some even better news. You see, because of their great financial results, CDPR can proceed safely in being ambitious with their future projects, which is just great for everyone, meaning that they don't have to rush out projects and rather take their time in making quality games. A revenue graph they released on Twitter shows how Witcher 3 revenue has fluctuated up and down over time throughout the years. But Cyberpunk pushed a large amount of sales last year, and hopefully this curve continues upward throughout 2023. Which leads us into the next part. Another piece of media published by CDPR on Twitter showcases an image of Idris Elba's character, Solomon Reed, and the month for when the marketing campaign for Phantom Liberty starts, which, it says here, will start in June. And since the marketing begins in early summer, we can probably assume that Phantom Liberty will drop closer to fall season or holiday season this year. But hey, take that with a grain of salt, as this is only guesswork on my side. It is entirely possible that CDPR goes for a quick marketing cycle, but since they have such a huge amount of devs working on Phantom Liberty, it would make more sense if they had a bit longer marketing cycle for it, since they will most likely be playing it safe by polishing the expansion as much as possible. In any case, we also learned from the earnings call that Phantom Liberty is in the final stages of production, and this slide here shows that CDPR has moved more and more devs over to the project as time has passed. We also got a graph showing the fiscal results for last year, which turned out to be 347 million Polish zloty in pure net profit, meaning that's what they made after all of their expenses and such. Now this roughly turns out to be somewhere around 81 million US dollars, so in terms of profit, this is actually really good, so it's looking really bright for CDPR as of right now. Now, during the earnings conference call, the good folks over at CDPR revealed some even more good news. As I mentioned before, the ratings for Cyberpunk 2077 has climbed to an overall positive rating on most platforms, most notably Steam, and an image from the conference call shows this as well, including all platforms into this graph. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition, also called the next-gen version, was the highlight before the end of the year, and according to CDPR, the release of the Complete Edition has extended the lifespan for Witcher 3 for an entire generation. Aside from all this, one thing to note here is that CDPR is putting a lot of effort into making their employees feel valuable, partly by introducing a new bonus system, incentive programs, and so on, which is just great to hear because healthy developers equals better games. Now, one thing that was brought up during the earnings call was the situation regarding Project Sirius, which is the spin-off Witcher game developed by the Molasses Flood, and why exactly CDPR chose to restart the project. And the reasoning given for this is simply because CDPR has to stay innovative, meaning that they're constantly evaluating what works and what doesn't work. And this time, it seemed like development for the spin-off Witcher game wasn't heading in the right direction, so they restarted the project. Now, what Sirius is going to turn into is anyone's guess, but some information out there on the interweb seems to suggest that it could be a Japanese-inspired Witcher game. However, again, take that with a massive grain of salt. And so, for the final part, we have reached the Q&A where CDPR talked to investors. And one of the first questions was regarding using Unreal Engine 5 and how it's working out so far. And according to CDPR, they're still preparing many things like toolsets and pipelines, and most of the developers are still learning how to use the Unreal Engine instead of Red Engine. It was also mentioned that the game that comes after the next Witcher game, Project Polaris, is expected to accelerate in development after the release of Polaris or Witcher 4, which makes sense since the devs will have built most of their assets by then. They were also asked whether CDPR will attend E3 this year, but CEO Adam Kaczynski dodged that question by basically saying stay tuned. With all of this, CDPR also released a sustainability report, so for anyone who's interested in reading that, I've left a link to it in the description below. And that's basically everything of importance we've learned from CDPR for now, and I gotta say that the future of CD Projekt Red looks pretty bright, all things considered. And I'm feeling especially hopeful for Phantom Liberty, especially since CDPR has increased the amount of devs working on it since the last earnings call. In any case, let me know what you think of all this in the comments below, and have a great day. Mr. Olton, signing out.